Now, this is a little bit different. Remember how we talked about in our Unit 6, we're kind of talking about something we've already talked about, right?
Yes.
What are we learning about in our Unit 6 skills, Jonathan? The War of 1812. Have we already learned about that?
Yeah.
We have, but guess what? We're going to learn about it more because this time you guys get to read about it in your readers. We're still not quite there yet for you to read it in your readers. So today we are going to just review from our knowledge portion what we learned about in the War of 1812, just to give us background knowledge, to make sure your brain remembers those facts before you have to read about it on your own. Because when you are reading, sometimes you come up against difficult words. We can use our chunking to help us, but also if you remember that words, it's easier to remember how to chunk it too, okay? If it sounds familiar to you. So we're going to go over some things that we have already learned about from our knowledge portion, just to make sure our brains are ready and activated for us to be reading about it on our own. Yes. I believe it starts soon, but they're trying to give you as much background knowledge as possible before you guys get into your readers yourself. I think it's actually. It might be tomorrow, I believe. I think tomorrow we actually start with the actual reader. But today we are going to get that background knowledge, okay? I'm going to bring back out our knowledge flip book to help us remember, okay? No, we're still in our skills, but remember I said we want to just make sure our brain remembers those things we've talked about. So when we get ready to read, it's going to be easier for us to read, okay? All right, so yes.
Does that mean we're going to go over the same pages that we read?
Yes, but we're not going to read all of it, okay? So we have this here. Remember, these are our 13 original colonies. From 1775 to 1783, America fought Great Britain for independence. This conflict was called the Revolutionary War. Against all odds, America won. What had been the 13 original colonies officially became the United States of America. After gaining independence, the American people did not want kings or queens governing them anymore. Americans wanted to create a new kind of government. They wanted to be able to elect or select individuals to represent the people and act with their best interests in mind. They wanted a government that was by the people and for the people. Thumbs up if you remember us discussing that. Great job. To help create the new form of government, several elected leaders met in Philadelphia in May and June of 1787. Some leaders who could not attend, such as Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, wrote down their ideas. Together, this group of leaders became known as the Founding Fathers. The Founding Fathers' ideas all came together in a document called the U.S. Constitution. Great job. Kiss your brain. Way to remember. The Constitution became the framework for this American government. A man named James Madison had a clear vision of how the United States should govern itself. James Madison is known as the father of the Constitution because he put all the ideas together by writing the Constitution with the help of George Washington and others. He also became the fourth President of the United States. All right, I'm going to check to see if you were listening and you understand. What was the name of the document that became the framework for the American government? Clayton.
The U.S. Constitution.
So close. Not constipation. Let's see, can anybody help him? He's so close. He's almost got it. Jonathan.
The U.S. Constitution.
There you go. Constitution. Say it with me, everybody. Constitution. How many syllables does that word have?
3. 4.
Let's see. Constitution. There is 4. So we got to make sure we get all 4 of those when we say that. That is a big word, okay? Yep, it's going to have 4 vowels or vowel T's. Good. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Who was the father of the Constitution? Maya. James Madison. And why do we call him the father of it? Kinley?
We call him the father of the whatever because he
What was his job?
he was working as
Wyatt, help her out.
he made he gave all the ideas in it with the help of George Washington.
Right, he put all the ideas together and wrote it down for us. So that's why he's called the father of the Constitution. All right, let's keep going. See if we can remember some more information. For many years after the Revolutionary War, the United States grew larger and wealthier. New states such as Vermont, Kentucky, and Tennessee, Ohio, and Louisiana were added. New territories were also settled. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson purchased the Louisiana Territory from France. This purchase more than doubled the size of the United States. Remember, we looked in our reader yesterday at the different photographs and paintings, and we talked about how France and Great Britain they're a big part of our country's evolution. You see all this land right here. You see this big old piece of land.
Yeah.
This is what France owned because their explorers had came and they had settled this area. But once the United States became its own country, our country bought all this land from France in the Louisiana Territory purchased. And so now all of this is considered the United States of America. Over here, we haven't got this part yet, right? Because this says New Spain. Because you remember I told you also yesterday that Spain came and settled over here. You remember they thought they were in the Columbus thought they were in India, but they really weren't. They were over here in the West Indies. And so all this area started becoming a part of Spain. And so this is where Mexico is, and this is New Spain. So we haven't got this land just yet. So far, we have doubled the size of our country.
Why did you
Yes.
say New Spain?
Because, remember, this is Spain's country. This is Spain's land right now. And they're saying this is a new part of Spain.
And that's where Nevada is. That's where some people in Nevada speak Spanish a little bit.
Okay, we do have more Spanish-speaking people there, yes.
When the USA bought this whole entire land, did they become friends?
Did who become friends? The French people in there?
No, the USA and the French.
Get a box.
The USA and the French.
Well,
Friends. They shared.
Trying to think, because now you're making me remember all remember exactly everything. I believe that we have a French and Indian War at some point during this time so it might be before the Louisiana Purchase though. So possibly, I have to go look it up. Okay, you know what? That's what we can always do. If we're not sure, guess what? We have informational texts that we're learning about that we can go and find out the true information. Right? That's what informational texts are for. All right, so let's check. What was the name of the area? Oh, we just said this too. What was the name of the area of land the United States purchased from France? Let's see, Wyatt.
Louisiana.
Not just Louisiana, but what, Maya?
Louisiana Territory.
Right, the Louisiana Territory, or we can call it the Louisiana Purchase, either one. Good. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, France and Britain went to war against each other. This series of wars became known as the Napoleonic Wars, named after the French leader at the time, Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte wanted to make France the most powerful nation in the world. Britain was determined to stop him. The United States considered both France and Great Britain to be its friends, so there you go. It did not want to get involved in this costly and destructive wars. Even though the Napoleonic Wars were being fought all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, they greatly affected the United States. So yes, they were friends, and I believe, just thinking back, the French and Indian Wars were even before the Revolutionary War. So Miss Wilson corrected herself.
So the war across the Atlantic Ocean would actually just ship for the goods and all that.
Right, because if they're and where we're going to learn more about, but remember, if they're getting their goods in from these other countries, and if they're fighting from, if those countries that you're getting your goods from are fighting each other, is it going to be as easy to get your goods? No, because they're going to be too worried about each other and fighting each other in the wars and them blocking each other's ships. Much of the United States' growth during this time depended upon trade with France and Great Britain. Britain and France had many merchant or trading ships. These ships sailed across the Atlantic to trade goods with the United States, Canada, and with many of the British and French-owned islands in the Caribbean. For example, the United States sent flour and tobacco to France and Great Britain. Great Britain and France received sugar and coffee or cocoa from other countries. Both countries wanted to stop each other from trading with the United States. See, it's just what we talked about. They each also tried to prevent the other from getting money and supplies. They also did not want the United States to choose sides.
I think if they had to choose sides, I think American people would go to Great Britain because they can't understand France.
You think because it might be easier for them to understand English, they might side with the English people? Okay. To keep the French from trading with the United States, the British blockaded or blocked several U.S. ports. Remember we talked about a port is the place where ships can come in to be able to unload their goods and things. And so they were blocking the ports. They also blocked several imports in Europe, important ports in Europe. This seriously hurt the U.S. trade. France and Britain both had large naval fleets positioned in the Atlantic Ocean to attack each other's ships. To make matters worse, the British and the French began to seize or capture American ships loaded with valuable cargo. It became almost impossible to safely transport goods from the United States to foreign ports. It was also more and more difficult for Americans to receive the much-needed goods. And how do you think that made America feel if they can't get their goods that they need? Think that's going to make them, right? It's going to make them mad. Like, I need my stuff. Merchant ships weren't the only ships at the sea. The United States and Great Britain also had several naval ships. Life in the British Navy was not easy. Conditions on the naval ships were terrible, and punishments were harsh. Because of this, the British Navy had a hard time finding men who wanted to be sailors. To get more sailors, the British began to capture men from other countries' ships and force them to join their navy. Sometimes these sailors were British deserters. However, more times than not, the sailors who were seized weren't even British. But that did not stop the British from doing it. They even seized many U.S. sailors. This practice of forcing men into the British Navy was called impressment. Everybody say impressment. Good.
But that's also kind of harsh too, because if they're from a different country, they can just easily betray you because they know how to sail.
You know what? That's some good thinking. So here's saying it really wasn't smart on Britain to take somebody from another country because they're not necessarily going to be loyal to you because they're not from your country, and they're probably going to be mad that you took them, right?
And they'll probably start
saying bad words.
You think so?
Or they can just get really close to the United States or French ships and then jump on there and then there's no sailors and they'll sink.
Right. The impressment of U.S. citizens upset the American people and the U.S. government. As time went on, the United States found that it was losing more and more valuable cargo, sailors, money, and even ships. They demanded that the British stop impressing American sailors, but the British refused.
But then they don't have to go against it's gonna be like a triple threat.
So I want you to turn and talk to a neighbor, somebody that's close to you, and I want you to talk to him about what did the British do that angered the United States?
The British stole
Isaiah and Kinley turn to each other. Journey, you can turn with them, okay? Thank you. So remember, what did the British do that angered the U.S.? You remember you're supposed to be discussing what did they do to upset the United States. That's what you should be talking about with your partner. Dream big.
Work hard.
All right. So after talking with your partner, what are some things that you discussed were the reasons why the British did what they did to anger the United States? Wyatt, what did you say?
I thought if they made the United States be sailors, they knew how to sail or get a lot of practice from the British or something. And then when they get really close to another ship, they can jump off the ship. Then tell the French or the United States, one of your people and all that. And then they sail, and then they can just crash the other ship.
I think so. So you're saying that what angered them is them impressing upon the sailors, making the sailors become their sailors. But you also said after then the U.S. people, the U.S. sailors could take the information that they learned from the British to use it for themselves to help them get away. All right, Kinley, what do you think that the British did to anger the U.S.?
I think that they did it because they angered the U.S. because they're taking everything from them, they're taking people from them.
Right. Not only were they taking people, but like you said, they're taking everything. They took cargo ships. They were blocking ports. They were doing a lot, right? That probably would upset me if somebody was causing all those problems for me. Izzy, did you have anything to add?
That they were taking all their stuff and not letting the United States share stuff with their France.
With France, right? They weren't not allowing United States to trade or share with France. Now, do you guys think that was probably a good strategy on Great Britain's part? No, because like you said, they did all these things, but that didn't make America want to take their side. It made America kind of angry, right?
Because they're taking everything
Right.
and they don't like it.
Right. All right. Good. So tomorrow, I know you guys have been itching to get to that reader. Tomorrow we will actually get to read. Well, now we've got our brains remembering everything that happened, right? All right. Quickly go ahead and go. All right. We're going to switch to our phonics portion. Nope. All right. So the last couple of days we've been learning about some sound patterns, right?
Yes.
I'm going to write some of the words and I want you to tell me what sounds they make. You ready? This K is silent, right? Ooh. The W is silent. You only hear this R, right? This is the sound you hear. This is the sound you hear. Shh. Shh. Right. This is a digraph. It's two letters coming together for one sound. And then yesterday, we talked about a new sound for a spelling that we had already learned, so it became a tricky spelling. We had EA. Now, we've learned that EA usually says E, but what did we learn yesterday?
It can say
Not Eh. It can say right? So we're going to be looking at some words today, and we're going to get to play a game that is going to involve these sounds. It's going to have the EA saying E, but it also can say eh. We're going to have that PH that says, we're going to have that WR that says, and we're going to have that KN that says, All right, so in this game, it's going to be our reading baseball. Now, don't laugh at my baseball diamond. I did my best, okay? All right.
where's the baseball
Oh, you got to listen for the directions. All right, so what's going to happen in this game? Okay. We're going to use this as our player, right? So I'm going to split you into two teams. Okay, I'm going to split you into two teams. I have some words that follow those sound patterns that we just talked about, okay? And we're going to, what you're going to do is when I split you into teams, I'm going to go say team 1. And team 1 is going to get 10 minutes to score as many points as possible. And this is how you score. So when I show a word, if the first person in line gets it right, you will get to move your player to the first base. Then you will go to the end of the line. The next person will have to read the word correctly. If they read it correctly, they get to go to second base. Next person will come up. If they read their word correctly, they'll get to go to third base. The fourth person comes up. If they read it correctly, they get to go to home. And that means you have scored a point, right? You can't make a home run in this game.
What's in the wrist?
Good. Move your player up. Shh. Okay, go to the end of the line. Ready?
Wheel.
Good. Move it up. Shh. Not. Shh.
No.
And if you're listening, your name should be on the top of your page.
What page?
PP3. We finished a little bit early today, so we're going to do some more practice with this. Yes, quickly.
Can I go after Clayton?
Yes. Yes. Thumbs up if your name is on your paper. Quickly go. Yes. All right. On this page, we have that tricky spelling, right? That EA. What were the two sounds that EA can make? Or E. So we're going to read. We're going to go down the columns today. We're going down columns to read the list of words.
Mine doesn't have it for some reason.
Let me see. There you go. Okay. All right. So remember, we're going down the columns. Everybody go to the first column. What is our first word? Peach. Circle that tricky spelling, please. They're all going to be EA. We're just going to decide what sound it gives. All right, down the column. Remember, columns go up and down. What's the next word? Health. Spread. Stop. We're going too fast. Look at it. What is it? Tread, because there's no TH there. So it's tread. Go down to your second column. Bread. Dread. It's not sweet. Sweat. That was tricking us up during our game. What is the next one? Stream. We're going together. All right. Third column. Dead. Deaf. Cream. Team. Fourth column. Cream. Mean. Thread. Beaver. Last column. Dream. Wealth. Seam. Steam. Okay, so what you're going to do, we read through these, right? What you are going to do is, since we have read them all together, you're going to go to your seat. You are going to sort them. If it says E, like beach, you'll put them under that column.